All right, everybody, thank you for joining. It looks like we've got a couple more people joining, getting settled in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So today we are wrapping up our series on voice, part 3, finishing up with conversational analytics. If you joined us for the first webinar, that was where we took some time to plan out how to think about a voice app or building an Alexa skill. The second webinar was focused on building that skill. And now we get to wrap it all up with a nice little bow focused on those analytics so that we can continue to iterate on the skill. And it's not just us presenting today. We have partnered up with our friends at Dashbot. Justina, welcome.
Thanks, Chloe, for having me. Really excited to be here.
So to bring a little bit of light to why we decided to launch this webinar series, we're always thinking about how our customers are using our product, Zesty.io, and as voice technology has really risen to the forefront of marketing and technology and where they intersect. We took it upon ourselves to explore that as an avenue, find some really great partners to bring even more value to customers and not even customers, but people just looking to learn about these skills and how to implement them into the strategies that they have for their brands. So first, a little bit about Zesty.io. If you're unfamiliar, we have SaaSified enterprise web content management. So what that means in a nutshell is Zesty.io is a platform that really simplifies and in an elegant way the delivery of content for and unleashing that so you can be syndicated to websites, mobile apps, connected devices such as an Alexa or a Google Home Assistant, things like that without the increased cost that would typically be associated with other platforms because we are a SaaS platform. And then Justina, I'll let you talk a little bit about Dashbot.
Hi, everyone. As I said, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much, Chloe and Simon, for inviting us and choosing to partner with us. So after you build your awesome Alexa skill on Zesty.io, you can actually integrate analytics and see how your Alexa skill is performing and actually optimize on user engagement and retention. So they're, web and mobile analytics, but conversational analytics is unlike anything else. And I'm excited to show you all what that looks like.
Awesome, thank you. So this is a fairly quick webinar in comparison to the last one. This one we're expecting to be around 30 minutes. First, we're going to do a brief recap on how marketing teams can implement voice into their strategy, sort of looking back at webinars 1 and 2 in literally 2 minutes. Talking about the benefits of having one content repository for all of those different skills and channels. Then we're going to dive into why analytics for voice and showing you what integrating Dashbot looks like, literally how quick and easy it is. I think Simon will do a demo that might take all of 5 minutes. And then Justina has a demonstration presented for you. So once you have collected a bunch of data, we're going to actually walk through Dashbot, check out all the different cool analytics that they're able to present to you, how powerful the platform is, and then we'll wrap up with some questions and answers. So the main use cases for voice apps, as we've discussed before, you can dive deep into this by finding the replay for the first webinar, but we've talked about covering an informational app, a conversational app, a news app, and a fun app. So whether the one thing that all of these all have in common is going to be you're going to need analytics for all of them, right? To see if the information you're providing is information that your client base are actually asking for, conversational to see how people talk about your product and if they're asking questions around your product that you're encouraging, news to see if people are engaging on a daily basis or a weekly basis, however you've set up your app to make sure that they are continuing to engage. Or a fun app. Are people actually finishing the task and the skill that you've laid out for them? Are they actually engaging and getting the full experience that you want for them to get, et cetera, et cetera. While it's really awesome and valuable to set all these things up, you don't know if they're actually working until you have those analytics integrated. And this is a bit of a callback to the second webinar where we talked about different things you can do to actually start implementing voice into your website today through adding a different schema and then actually building out an Alexa skill. Again, we do that in an hour in the previous webinar. And why this is so important. You can see over the last few years, literally, that the voice device market has shifted so much and diversified so much just in the last few years that the next few years are projected to be just as diverse. So it's really important for us to have those analytics hooked up so that we can see, especially cross-channel, how different customers maybe interact, with different devices in different ways, and to see if you can track any sort of harmony amongst those customer journeys. But on top of that, the benefits of having one content repository through Zesty.io actually harps back to that fact that the channels are diversifying so much, right? We're able to help empower you. You're able to have one content repository and send that content out to a Google Home, to an Alexa app, to an Apple HomePod, to really wherever it needs to go for a voice app, all from one spot, which helps empower your organization's headless or omni-channel branding and marketing, helps minimize the IT friction, so IT doesn't have to set something up every time marketing wants it, and then also helps get your costs under control in a very predictable way. So that's it from the marketing side of Zesty.io. I'm going to turn it over now to Simon, who is one of our software developers who has been so gracious as to build out an integration between our Alexa skill and Dashbot's analytics platform. Take it away, Simon.
Okay, thank you. So let's just maximize this. So here we have the code for our Alexa skill that we built out. We have a full webinar that covers that. It's number 2 in the series, the one that immediately precedes this one. So very quick recap. The premise of the skill is it does horoscopes, so it knows things about the different star signs and people's traits who have those star signs, what dates those star signs are in effect, and some horoscope readings for each. We went ahead and implemented this using the Amazon SDK for Node.js. So it's a JavaScript solution. It runs on Amazon AWS, but it could run any way you can run JavaScript. Other language options are available, such as Python or Java. We went with JavaScript because likely if you're building multi-channel experiences, you have front-end developers. Front-end developers know JavaScript. And it's a really quick and easy way of getting things up and running. So the architecture of this basically looks like we have a bunch of request handlers that map to intents in Alexa, which are things like, tell me the horoscope for Scorpio last week. And Alexa will pull out tokens from that and give us variables back in this handler. And those variables might be things like Scorpio and last week and horoscope. From that, we make some calls to Zesty.io, which has the ability to build JSON endpoints, and we have it query a content base and get the right answer for that, and then form up a spoken string that is fed back to the Alexa. So generally, the pattern here, if we look at the code here really quick, is we make a backend request out to Zesty, having got some information from, or some context from the Alexa SDK. We get a response back, and we render that response out. We do that across a number of intents for the different questions that the skill can be asked. And you register that on Amazon's platform, upload the code somewhere. So we're using AWS Lambda, point the platform at the code, and away you go. It's pretty simple, and we have a full webinar that covers that. So as we want to expand this beyond Amazon, we started looking at, well, how do we know if people are going to use this, or what's the engagement like, which is where Dashbot comes in. So Amazon provides some basic analytics for Alexa skills, but obviously it's only for Alexa. Once you go multi-platform and you're on Google Home or Facebook Messenger or Slack or whatever the next thing is, you kind of need a multi-platform solution. So we started talking with Dashbot, It turned out it's extremely simple to integrate Dashbot with our code. So the only changes we had to make to that were up here, we require a Dashbot module. It has an API key that's passed in as an environment variable. Get that from signing up to Dashbot. And then right down the bottom here in the code, where we export the handler that deals with all of the requests from Amazon, we literally just wrap it in a Dashbot function, and that's it. That's the only integration needed. So from this point, Dashbot sees all of our intent requests and responses, can store data about those on their platform, and then we get much richer analytics than we would do with just the Amazon ones. So with that, I was going to turn it over to Justina to show you what that looks like, because obviously our skill hasn't been in market very long at all, and it's only on one platform, so we don't have the greatest data set, but Justina can walk you through that.
Unless you all want to sign up for Zesty Horoscopes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simon. Let me share my screen with all of you. Entire screen.
I think we have to stop share.
Okay. Cool. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Looking good.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chloe and Simon. That was great. They made several really good points that I just really want to bring home. I wanted to show you this screen first to, can you see my screen, Chloe?
Yep.
Great. I want to show you all of this because it reinforces what Chloe said, and why amazing platforms such as Zesty.io is investing time in voice, especially because the reach is so amazing and the user experience is unlike any other. We put together this timeline. I just wanted to see and map out the landscape, and who the big players are and what platforms you should be thinking about as you're building this out. It's really fun to see such major tech giants invest in this space, especially in voice and also in chat. So the bottom below is the growth in chatbots, and then the top is with voice platforms. And like Simon said, if you're thinking about investing in this space, if you're building in one, usually you're also thinking about building in others. That's what we see with, especially with our clients. If they're looking at chat, someone on their team is investigating voice as well. So it's pretty exciting to see how this space has really grown and how builders and brands have really put a lot into this. And then let me jump into what Dashbot can do for you. So Dashbot is a conversational analytics platform. So after you've built your Alexa skill on Zesty.io, you would integrate our analytics very much like how Simon said, and you would view your reports here. So I'm going to take us through, we support every single kind of conversational interface. And what that means is anywhere, anytime that a conversation can take place, we do analysis on that. I'm going to show you a sample Google action that we've built. The reason why this is so is because there are a lot of differences between the platforms themselves. The primary difference between Alexa and Google, I'd say, in terms of what they provide their developers is you get the raw utterances, so the actual text of what users are saying with Google Actions, versus Alexa Skills, you get the slot values. So I will show you what that means in terms of intent entities, but you're able to see the full reports in their entirety on both in both cases. So once you've built your Alexa skill, all the reports are going to look just like this. So across all platforms, we support the richness of them. So if you built a Facebook Messenger bot, we would show you the GIFs, emojis, text, audio files, location, images. With voice, so we show you different things here. If you're using custom audio clips, we show you the entire recording of that and how long users listen to each one. So it's very different for chat and voice. So once you've built your bot and you've logged in here, you're going to see what we consider a primary dashboard. And this kind of shows you the overall health of your Alexa skill or Google action. And so what this looks like is it shows you the interaction activity, and interactions are defined as what your skill says and then what a user says to your skill. So at a high level, how Dashbot operates is we get a copy of every single message that is sent to your Alexa skill and every single text or whatever the user says back to your Alexa skill. And we show you that in terms of intents. And for Google Action, we show you the raw messages that the users are saying. So here you could actually jump into any of the modules that you see here, whether it's user activity, live message rate, the actual transcripts, and we show you the retention. So we have things that we consider, what we call table stakes for analytics, things that are pretty easy to what we call counts. So the number of users by daily, weekly, monthly, what engagement looks like, retention, whether or not users are coming back. So we call all of that table stake metrics. But where it gets really interesting are the messages themselves and the power of intents. So Zesty.io does a great job of making it super easy for you to build up all of these intents. And so once you've done all of that, you can come into Dashbot to actually see what you've built. And so we also do things by time of day. A report here getting a little more into the counts themselves, and then the actual messages. So the other thing that's really important is device capabilities. So with Alexa, with Amazon and Google, there's so many types of devices that you can use, some with display capabilities and some without. So this report is pretty significant in that it breaks that down for you so that you could think about whether or not you want to offer that kind of support and how you want to build your user experience. So getting into the power of intents here, we show you the top intents in. And what this looks like here is we actually show you all of those intents. So this movie, Google Action, is designed to sell you movie tickets. So here the intent is movie request, and that means that a user has asked about a movie. And then we show you all of the utterances here that underlie within that intent. The other things that are important to look at in this report are the start and exit percentages. So if you're seeing things like, speak to agent and that exit percentage is pretty high, you want to look at why that is and where in your user journey is that breaking down. Something really significant here is the not handled intent. So we have a report that shows you every single time your Alexa skill or Google Home or Facebook Messenger bot could not handle a specific message. So in this case, this report shows you 3 very significant metrics. The number of interactions that your Alexa skill could not handle, which means that your Alexa skill used the fallback intent. So your Alexa skill basically said something like, sorry, I could not understand that, or redirected the user back to the menu, something that your Alexa skill could not respond to. This report also shows you the number of users that were affected by the inquiry that your skill cannot handle. And then, most importantly, this nice green line here shows you the number of incoming interactions that had this not handled intent. Over time, we want to see this line decrease because as you're adding in more interactions, this number should come down. So you should be able to support those intents coming in. And then here for Facebook Messenger, basically every platform, until Alexa releases those raw utterances, we actually show you the intent that your Google Action or Facebook Messenger bot couldn't respond to. So this is a really great report to use to optimize that. And the other thing for Alexa skill you want to consider is you define for every single bot you build, you define what that not handled intent is. So you'd go in and add a specific metadata point to say, my skill cannot understand, these queries. So we would show you what's the percentage of all of that coming in. The other important thing to go into, once you've looked at your top intents in, you could actually view that in a funnel form. And what this does is it takes all of your intents and your conversations themselves and aggregates it in this really awesome way so that you can understand exactly what users are saying. So here it shows us that a lot of the journey starts by people asking for movies. So what movie's playing? And it rolls up all the interactions under this intent, which is pretty neat. And so every time you're, typing all of those utterances out for your skill, you can see how that's coming up here. And how this is read is you can see all the messages that occurred before someone asked for a movie and all the messages that occurred after that. And so this is pretty important because we have something called top exit interactions out. And so let's go to top intents out first. So very similar to top intents in, we show you the top intents that your skill is actually kicking back to the user. So we show you things like how many times, again, your skill used a not handled intent, how many times your skill was asked to refer to an agent. So you define all of these intents as you're building out your skill. And so those are pretty major ones. And then most importantly, with top exit interactions in and out, we show you the exit behavior. And you can see this from an intent level as well as an interaction level. So we show you where in the flow did your user leave the journey, and if you can go back and really optimize on that. And so for the sake of time, I'm going to kick it back to Chloe, but if you have any questions about how to get started, what reports are useful for what you're trying to work on, whether it's with conversation or voice, feel free to email me at justina@dashbot.io.
Wonderful. Thanks for that high-level demo, Justina. That was awesome. Alrighty, guys. So with that being said,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, feel free to throw in any questions that you guys have. I know one that I had when I was looking at this is, Justina, is there any delay in the analytics that you collect and present, or is it all in real time?
That's a great question. It's actually in real time. And all the reports that you can see in real time, live transcripts, the ones that aggregate information, so the daily, weekly, monthly kind of reports, you'll see the next day right after. So it takes about 24 hours after integrating to see those reports that are rolled up. But everything else you should be able to test immediately.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely very important because there's quite a few analytics platforms that they're not immediate, and that can be so frustrating, I feel like, especially if you have something major like a major release that just came out, or you just released some new aspect to your skill and you're not getting feedback on that quick enough. That can be frustrating. So
yeah, totally. We get that a lot. And what we see most people doing is, they can build a dev environment on your platform and then a production environment on your platform too, and actually integrate analytics for both. And then they can make changes slowly on the dev environment and then send that over on the production side. So they're not making any crazy changes there, and it's all live. So that's a really great point.
Yeah, that's a really interesting component to that. Okay, we have one more question that just came in. Justina, can Dashbot.io be used with healthcare projects? Is this recording of information HIPAA compliant? That's a great question.
Yeah, that is really great. So depending on, there's something that we do, it's called PII redaction, and I'm happy to send that documentation out. So you could define exactly, what you don't want to send to us, and we can work with you to make sure that it is HIPAA compliant. The other thing to note there is, which can be a little confusing, is if you don't send us the information, we can't report on it. So it's kind of a funny, double-edged sword, because some people want to see reports on, their patients or rolled up. But if it's, all anonymized, that's what we're going to show you. So the bottom line there is we can only report on what you send us. So that's something to keep in mind. But yes, we can definitely work with you on that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really, really great question. Any other questions?
I think there's one in the chat room. Does the product do any sentiment analysis or similar meta-analysis on the data?
Oh, that's a good question too.
Yeah, that is. Actually, so there's a sentiment analysis report that I didn't show, but yeah, so we do analysis on that for the ones that are word-based, as well as we do that for Google Action. But because there's no raw utterances for Alexa, we don't do that just yet. For all the other reports, for all the other interfaces we do. And what that looks like is we use a bag of words approach, and we score specific words and conversations and come up with a sentiment score for that, essentially. And so we see a lot of usage in that for like our customer service use cases. So they see things where, you know, conversations will start off pretty negative, but it ends positively. Some people use that as a pretty big KPI as a measure of success. So we can definitely discuss that report a little more if that's something important to you.
Awesome. Yeah, we can definitely send it out after we send out the recording. We can attach a couple of documents that can answer these questions directly. All right, I think that's it for questions and answers. I'm not seeing anything else come in. So I want to take a moment just to say thank you to everybody for attending the third part of our installment here for the Raise Your Voice series. And if you have any questions, again, Justina gave her email. My email directly is chloe@zesty.io. Feel free to email me as well with any questions and answers. And thank you so much for joining today.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.